In India, some places take on an aura of sacrality. When one crosses the threshold of a Hindu temple, one moves from profane space to sacred space. It is there that images of the gods are enshrined. The images of Hindu deities are consecrated so that the god is believed to indwell the images. Both here and in the streets of the cities, a clear separation of the sacred and the profane, however, cannot be made. Even sacred time and sacred space are surrounded by profane, which tends to permeate their boundaries. The streets of the capital city of Delhi are much like the streets of other busy cities and towns. Vendors sell fruit and vegetables, people hurry to work or business, or just loiter about. But even amidst mundane life, the sacred appears. Many businesses, for example, have shrines to a god or gods. In the town of Nasik, a sacred river runs through the market area with temples situated along the river's bank. People come to perform rituals. At a prescribed time after the death of one's father, male members of the family come to Nasik to have their heads shaved, perform rituals under the direction of the priests, and bathe in the sacred waters of the river. Small boys have their heads shaved. But in this sacred area, the profane is in evidence as well. There are boys playing games, women doing their laundry, people selling fruit and vegetables. One moves effortlessly from the profane to the sacred, and back to the profane again. One of the deities that is widely worshipped across North India is Hanuman. Hanuman is easily identified by his orange color and his form as a monkey. It is in that form that Hanuman assisted the god Rama when the demon Ravana had kidnapped Rama's wife Sita. This story is told in the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. Hanuman is seen in a variety of forms, sitting, standing, and kneeling. In some temples, Hanuman is the central deity. In other temples, he is found in a subsidiary role. In this particular temple, he is facing the image of Ram at the other end of the long corridor. It is the temple of Black Ram in Nasik. Here the deity Ram, his wife Sita, and Ram's brother Lakshmana are worshipped. The garlands of flowers are replaced daily. The priests who do the puja are usually male, but the worship includes women and children as well. In some shrines, it is women who preside, as in this large shrine to Ganapati, or Ganesha, the popular elephant-headed god who removes obstacles and is propitiated at the beginning of all new ventures. Not all temples are dedicated to male deities. Male deities are often featured with their female consorts, such as Vishnu and Lakshmi, Rama and Sita, Krishna and Radha. But female deities are worshipped in their own right as well. In this temple, the goddess Durga is worshipped. She is usually pictured with her mount, the lion. She is the slayer of the buffalo-headed demon and is worshipped for her power. She is approached for progeny, the cure of diseases, protection against poisonous bites, and for the destruction of one's enemies, seen or unseen. When one enters the temple, one enters sacred space. Even when the temple is under repair. Some Indians consider the worship of images as superstition. The piety of others does not allow them to distinguish between God and the image of God. Still others see the image as nothing more than a representation of God. Most common is the view that God is capable of taking form in the image. Images are installed in temples according to carefully enacted rituals, and it is through those rituals that the god takes his or her presence in the form. It is only then that the form is treated as God. The most sacred and prevalent image of Shiva is the Shiva Linga, a representation of the male generative organ. This aniconic form is worshipped much like other anthropomorphic forms of God. Water and milk are poured over the linga, and often a receptacle is placed over the form so that the offering of liquid can continue throughout the day, dripping on the representation of the deity. The linga is set in another form which represents the female organ, and thus the combined form includes both male and female elements. The creator god Brahma is worshipped in one shrine in India in the town of Pushkar in Rajasthan. Outside the temple to Brahma, women are singing devotional hymns in praise to God. Often the worship begins with the blowing of a conch shell or the ringing of bells. This announces to God the presence of the worshiper. The deity is offered incense, the light of oil lamps, flowers, fruit and vegetables, napkins and water. In the largest Hanuman temple in the city of Ujjain, the evening arati is performed with intense emotion, bordering on religious frenzy. The sound of the drums, the offering of incense and light, the crowds of people that block for many the vision of God, add to the intensity of the ritual. In that temple, on the last day of December, women prepare for a large meal that will be fed to hundreds of devotees that evening. They roll dough for chapatis. Prepare lentils. And other vegetarian dishes. Some temples prepare meals for the poor. In this annual event, the intention is somewhat different. Since the food is prepared in the temple and blessed by God, it is considered materially and spiritually beneficial. Many of the devotees could easily afford to buy their food, but this becomes a spiritual exercise. The deity is not available to worshippers any time of day or night, nor is worship of a congregational style as in churches or synagogues. The image is treated as a living reality and in an almost human manner. When the curtains are drawn or the doors of the shrines are shut, the god is at rest. But the god is awakened in the morning, fed, bathed, and the evening worshipped with lights and put to rest again. Some images are placed in alcoves equipped with ceiling fans to keep the deity cool in the summer heat. It is said that Hindus worship 330 million gods. At least the variety is great. But many Hindus have their preferred deity, their favorite temple. Nonetheless, they worship numerous additional deities and visit other temples as well. Temple worship engages all the human senses. The sense of sight is engaged in seeing the god and allowing the god to see the devotee. This alone is considered spiritually beneficial. It is called darshan. The sense of touch is engaged when the form is touched, or when one places one's hands over the flame that has been offered to God, and then rubs that presence on one's head or arms or chest. The sense of sound is engaged with the ringing of bells, the singing of devotional hymns, the chanting of mantras. The sense of smell is engaged when incense is offered to God and smelled by the worshiper. And the sense of taste is engaged when a portion of the offering to God is distributed as prasad, a form of communion with God.
Some philosophers have said that whatever you will find in other scriptures, you can find in Bhagavad Gita. But what you will find in Bhagavad Gita, you cannot find anywhere else in the world. So please come, have a copy of Bhagavad Gita and make your life perfect.
ISKCON, known to worshippers as the Hare Krishna movement, is also present in India. Indeed, this is an ancient and hallowed tradition there. Their founder, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, came to New York City in the 1960s and recruited an unlikely group of American hippies to his faith. They were seen on streets and in airports selling their religious books. Misunderstood by many, these devotees grew in numbers and eventually returned to India to reintroduce that ancient Indian faith. They can be found on the streets of major Indian cities, and they have temples throughout India. In this magnificent new temple in New Delhi, activities and worship go on daily. Most Hindus see ISKCON temples as merely another Hindu temple. In their temples, puja is offered to the god Krishna and his consort Radha. But always there is the image of their founder, Prabhupada, facing the sacred shrine containing images of Krishna and Radha. Many Indians visit a temple on their way to or from work, but they take with them the benefits of this visit in their daily lives. Outside the temple, the hectic life of the Indian city continues. Traffic continues as before. Barbers give haircuts and shaves. Tea stalls sell tea, and businesses of many kinds abound. And as life continues, so does death. Dead bodies are usually cremated. and their ashes are scattered in the river. Life can be tranquil in the Ganges in Benares at 5 a.m. People arrive at sunrise, if not before. To engage in religious rituals. To make offerings to the river and to the sun god. And to bathe in the sacred waters of the Ganges. But one also encounters, as the day moves on, boys lifting dumbbells, playing cricket, and dhobies washing clothes. In daily life, the sacred and the profane permeate each other. But when the Hindu enters the temple, he or she is entering sacred space, and for a time at least, the profane is held at bay.